Okay, I think we're ready. We're live. Welcome everyone to Coffee with Cobb. My name is Christian Baker, and I'll be moderating today's Coffee with Cobb. Today is going to be a little different from our previous Coffee with Cobbs in terms of format, where the entire webinar will be based in a question and answer format, a little bit more interactive for you all. Today's presenters, we have some brand new presenters with us today. We have Tim Kitchen, he's our large format product manager, and we have Peter Larson, our senior business improvement specialist. They're going to be doing most of the information delivery today. And today's topic will be large format printing in the construction industry and the pros and cons of outsourcing that capability. So here, I'll go ahead and send it over to Peter. Peter, please take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Christian. Well, it is a pleasure again to talk to you, Tim. It's good to see you face to face.
Absolutely.
You know, we have been working together for 24 years.
Yes, we have.
24 years ago, I met you. Of course, you haven't aged a bit and all those years, and have been with you for years here at Cobb. And one of your favorite topics, and mine too, is large format printing.
Absolutely.
And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to sort of pretend like I own a construction company. And for the folks out there to be able to answer the great question that people have is, okay, I own my own construction company. Do I need a large format printer?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a question I get all the time. I would tell you that in many cases, you don't need one. Outsourcers today do a great job. Most of them will really help you get your work done. It's a great way to get it done because you're not committing to a monthly payment. It's a variable cost. That's why a lot of people do outsource. And outsourcers today have the equipment, the capability to do it, as well as to assist you in getting your work done by pulling files off a Dropbox or wherever you're storing them, a FTP server, wherever it is, to get your work done. So they do a great job. So typically, when I get this question from a customer, the first thing is we talk about how much they're outsourcing. What are their actual hard dollar costs in terms of what they're sending out per month and how many drawings and that kind of thing. And that's where the conversation starts. But it usually ends up, we talk about other things because in many cases, you're not going to justify having your own equipment solely by looking at what you're outsourcing. So you have to talk about other factors, things like convenience, productivity, employee satisfaction, and what I call hidden costs.
Well, Tim, I've got to confess to you, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced.
I wouldn't expect you to be.
That I should bring large format in-house. If I own my own construction company, it is so easy to just send that file out. The reprographer takes care of it, and it comes right back to me. So at this point, I'm not convinced. So the first thing I want to ask you about is about convenience.
Okay.
Tell me about convenience.
Well, I typically get the question of, is convenience really that important? And my answer is yes, but only in the sense that convenience means productivity. Convenience can be speed, and convenience can also lead to employee satisfaction. So when I talk about convenience, it's not just having something that's easier to do. It means productivity for your employees. It also relates to the speed at which I can get things done. So it really, when you think about convenience, if you think about the things we have in our houses, things like dishwashers, things like that, they're productivity improvements, not just for convenience sake. And the same is true for your printing environment. No one would think to outsource all of their regular printing, all their narrow format, all their small format printing, because it's just terribly inconvenient to do it. And I run into the same thing with customers who say, I just can't do it. I can't outsource every bit that I do. I need something for convenience, something that makes me more productive, that brings more speed to the table to get my work done.
So it sounds like speed is important to be able to, it's convenient to be able to press a button or send a file, and then instead of waiting, it's conveniently provided for me right then and there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. And the equipment is very easy to use these days. Nobody has problems being a casual user of this equipment. because the equipment's really well designed to be able to support that.
We're going to get to that one because that's
Okay.
another one that I don't believe that these are easy to use. I think they're so complicated and so big, they don't even fit in my office because they're so huge. But, okay, I feel a little bit better about convenience. You've got me a little bit more convinced. But how does that relate to employee satisfaction? Because I want my employees to feel empowered, but I also want them to be satisfied with their job as well. How do you answer that?
Well, I will share with you that I've worked with customers in the past who, it's not usually the owner who brings this up. It's somebody in estimating or somebody in the project design phase that brings this up because they struggle with having to outsource every drawing that they're doing. So the employee satisfaction piece is very important. I mean, think about, this is still, even in this pandemic, the job market is still very tight in construction. So when you're talking about employee satisfaction, you're not just talking about something that you want to do. You're talking about something that you're protecting your employees, you're protecting your assets. So having the right productivity tools for people who are working long hours and trying to work shorter days using productivity tools, protecting those employees by providing them the empowerment to get their jobs done quicker, faster, more efficiently, really can be the difference between having a satisfied employee, somebody who's willing to stay, or starting a kind of a grueling job search to replace somebody who's a key contributor in your company. So it can make a big difference in employee satisfaction.
Okay, you got me thinking on that one. Also about employees, isn't there a level of satisfaction that employees feel when they produce this print right in-house in time to respond to a bid?
Absolutely, and it changes the way employees work in terms of how they schedule. So anytime you have to schedule printing outside and go pick it up, if you have to go pick it up or wait for it to be delivered even, you have to work around different factors to do that. So you got to change your schedule, you got to change the way you do things, and it really does affect how you plan your day. So having the capability just to produce those drawings in-house makes a lot of sense for a lot of people.
Okay, I'm feeling a little bit more convinced about employee satisfaction as well. But then we've got to talk about financials, because
Yes.
I think that it is so much more expensive to bring these big honking machines in-house than just send it out. What's the truth?
Well, the truth is that there are cases where, as I said at the beginning, there are cases where you don't need a large format printer, but there are also cases where you're probably losing money if you don't have your own printer. So I ran a couple of examples, and Christian can pull the slide up there. So this example is a customer who's outsourcing about 200 D-size drawings per week in black and white drawings, which is typical. That equates to about 5,000 square feet per month. Inside costs on that, if you brought your own equipment in, would be about $700 per month, and outside costs, you know, roughly just gauging different outsourcing providers have different costs, but it would probably be about $800 to $1,000 per month in outside printing costs.
Boy, that's more
Yes.
than in-house.
Yes, and that's kind of where the cutoff is. If you're solely looking at the hard dollars that you're spending, that's a great cutoff to say, if I'm doing anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 square feet per month, you can probably bring that work in-house and save some money.
Just thought of something. At 700 sounds great in your example, but here's where you tried to get me, Tim, but you couldn't do it. You've got to add on the cost of toner and add on the cost of paper to that 700. So now we're well over 1,000, aren't we?
Well, no, actually that 700 includes everything. So that is lease payment, that's service, that's full service maintenance, as well as your toner and your paper. So that's an all-in cost for that equipment. And I did not account for things that your accountant might be concerned about, things like tax savings. There are some tax benefits to having your own equipment as well. And depending on the equipment, you may be able to use it for other things that you hadn't really thought about, signage, things like that, internal signage, especially in the middle of what we're going through now with people socially distancing and that kind of thing.
We are.
Depending on the equipment, you can actually bring that work in-house as well.
I imagine you're going to talk about color at some point.
I will plan, I didn't plan to talk about color, but we can plan to talk about
I
it.
know we will. What about if I'm not doing 200 D size? And by the way, a D size, what does that mean?
D size is 24 by 36,
Okay,
standard in the
24,
industry.
right, that looks like.
Yeah.
No,
It's
not
a
quite
little
like
bigger,
that, yeah.
but 24 by 36 is a standard in the industry.
Okay,
It's an
that's-
architectural D size drawing.
Okay, good, that makes sense. But what about less volume? Now how do you answer it?
Well, the next example I ran that Christian can pull up is, and this is a typical case of customers doing about 50 D-size drawings per week in black and white. That's about 1,200 square feet per month.
Pretty low.
Inside costs on that are $400 per month. This is exactly the same equipment as the previous example.
Okay,
It's just that the maintenance and the cost for the toner and the paper aren't as high because there's not as much volume.
mhm,
Outside costs, about $200 to $300 per month.
okay,
So, and once again, didn't take into account any of the additional benefits of tax and things like that. So you're not quite justifying the equipment at this kind of volume, but keep in mind that that's where the other factors come in, the convenience, productivity, employee satisfaction, and
Right,
hidden costs. So that's where you're justifying going out. Are those factors worth $100 to $200 per month for you?
yeah, they might be. Plus, what if you're in rural areas?
Yep.
Isn't there some issue with some reprographers either charge a lot to deliver to those rural areas, or they make you come pick it up?
They can, yes. Typically, if you have your files electronically, you can send it to an outsourced provider.
Right.
But in many rural, and I've run into this many times, in many areas, you'll have to go pick it up because it's just outside of the delivery area. And that can be, an hour, 2 hours out of the office. And this then goes back to the productivity and the employee satisfaction.
Yes.
Because
yes.
it doesn't make sense to do that for all of your drawings. I still have people that will have a convenience machine
Mhm.
and use it for a lot of their work, but still outsource large jobs. So things, final drawing sets, things like that they're going to print multiple copies. They may still outsource that. That outsource provider is still going to be there, but having the capability to print in-house can make a big difference in productivity.
All right, you've got me a little bit more convinced now, Tim, I have to admit. This is not your first time around the
No, it's
rodeo
not.
here. I'm feeling more comfortable about convenience. Productivity is making sense, and employee satisfaction is making sense. The financials, I'm surprised that it's better than I thought it was going to be. What about the size of the machine? I mean, I go in reprographers and look behind the counter, they're as big as the wall, it seems. I can't fit that in my business.
Well, keep in mind that reprographers out there are producing, they might be producing 100,000, 200,000, a million square feet per month. So they've got different equipment than you would consider
Okay.
as an entry level or convenience
Okay.
type machine.
All right.
So the equipment that we're talking about that I used in the examples is about the same size as a normal copier with a finisher attached. So
Okay.
it's about
Alright.
60 inches wide and 32 inches deep, and that's it. So it's
Okay.
not very big, and in fact, the equipment that we use for the examples is ultra quiet. So when it's not printing, it doesn't make any noise at all. In fact, I say it's about as noisy as a couch. So it just kind of sits there, it doesn't make any noise until you actually print to it. I have customers who will install equipment in conference rooms
Oh,
and just
wow.
use it there. When they walk in to have a meeting, they'll just pause the queue on the printer so it doesn't fire up and print, and then they'll just turn it back on when they leave, and the jobs that are queued up will print in. So that it's pretty easy to make room for this type of equipment in most environments.
All right, what about some of the hidden costs? Tell me about hidden costs and other factors.
Well, there's always things that are difficult to consider, and so to cover that, I'll tell a story.
Okay.
So you and I, one of our first placements here in Richmond
Yeah.
was a construction company.
I remember.
They installed the equipment I'd say about 2 weeks later. I looked down at my cell phone, I get a call from them. And I often have customers call within the first couple of weeks after training and things, and they need some assistance. So that's what I normally thought it was. So I answered the phone, and the first words out of the customer's mouth were, "You're selling this machine all wrong." So I was intrigued. I've been doing this for quite a while, as you said, as you can see my gray hair.
You have gray hair?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've been doing this quite a while. So I said, "Please do tell. What am I doing wrong?" So the customer proceeded to kind of cover his week for me of delays and weather delays and changes, and everybody's gone through it. Everybody's been through this process. So he had tried to make up some time, so he'd scheduled a crew. He was going to have good weather. He scheduled a crew for the morning, and then he had a change in the plans, and he didn't have the new plans. So he said that he got the plans late. He'd already scheduled a crew. If he had had to outsource those plans, he would have had a crew sitting there in the morning. And he said, he told me, he said, I have more than justified the cost of this machine in a single day. Wow. Because I didn't have a crew sitting around with nothing to do while I waited for plans to be printed. Ooh. So that's just one example of the hidden costs. And I've mentioned some already in terms of productivity and wasted time in going to pick up plans and things like that. So there's lots of things to consider in terms of the empowerment of having the capability to produce your own drawings. There's things to recommend for outsource providers. I work with them all the time. They do a great job, and there's reasons to have them, but you can't beat having the capability of producing your own drawings. Right.
Well, tell me about some type of equipment. I mean, what brands? I mean, tell me what you have.
Well, I will tell you that we cover both Canon and Osei, as well as the HP line. So, and we cover those soup to nuts, from the very entry-level machines all the way up to the production machines.
Wow, that's good.
Yep.
And you said Osei?
Yes, Osei is a Canon brand.
Okay.
They're owned by Canon. In fact, I think that when Canon bought Osei, they renamed most of the Osei equipment, but they did not rename rebrand the Osei wide format lineup because it has such a great reputation in the industry.
Now, is it true that you have to hire like a full-time person to run one of these machines?
No, that's not true. We touched on that a little bit earlier. No, the equipment is really designed for walk-up use, or casual use, because people don't run this. Most of these equipments are not in manned environment. So people use this as casual all the time. In fact, I tell a story. I have one customer who has 45 installs with us, and I did most of the training as we installed that equipment. And I would tell I have not done a single retrain. So the equipment is just very easy to use.
Was some of that equipment what Christian's showing here, this Osei Flatway 365?
Yes, this is the equipment that I actually used for the examples. This is a Osei Flatway 365. It's a monochrome print with color scan. It is runs at 6 D-size prints per minute. Again, a D-size is a 24 by 36. So it's very fast. It has 2 rolls. You can print multiple sizes. Most people have the need to print 36 inch wide and 30 inch wide, or half size, whatever you're doing. And it's nice to not have to change the paper in between those. It does have color scanner, and it's capable volume wise of about 15,000 square feet per month. It's a great machine. It's probably I'm sure it is. We have probably more installs of this than any other equipment that we sell.
I've seen a lot of them out there. But now, can I talk about color now? Is this the time that I can really get you? Because I know you're not going to be able to offer much in color. Everything's black and white, right?
No, I use the black and white example because that's what most people are doing. I did run a color example. So in fact, for color, it's probably going to be easier. Most people easier to justify and based on hard costs.
More expensive. Color's a lot more expensive than black and white.
The equipment itself is more expensive, but to run it these days, depending on the equipment, it's not more expensive. So, but outsource providers will charge a premium for color. I ran an example of about, again, 5,000 square feet per month, but only say 50 of those 50 drawings were in color per week. So that really adds up to some serious outsourcing costs, and it makes it easier to bring that work back in-house.
Interesting. Now, color, the speed, I've always heard that color speed is so much slower, like you might get 1 or 2 D a minute. Can you get up to like maybe 7 or 8 D a minute in color these days?
Well, in terms of the speed, entry-level machines, typically the inkjet machines, design jets, Canon IPF machines, they are fairly slow when compared to other equipment. But the newer equipment, that's what I would consider for an entry level.
Right.
For an entry level customer.
Sure.
But the newer equipment, the production type equipment, is very fast. The HP PageWide
Like
that
what
Christian
Chris,
has put
like
up,
this,
yes.
what we're looking at here. Wow.
That's what I used for my example.
Okay.
And the HP PageWide actually starts about 10 Ds per minute.
In color?
In full color.
Oh.
And actually goes up to 30 D-size prints per minute. So it's very fast. In fact, this is the exact example that I ran. It is 10 D-size prints per minute, contains 2 rolls, color scanner, runs about 15,000 square feet per month. This is our most popular model at this point. We have more of the O6 out in the field, but this is certainly the most popular model that we have, because the economics of this are not much different than having black and white, particularly in the sense of being able to produce color.
So color is not that much more expensive on this HP PageWide?
No, in fact, color is not any. If you're doing drawings, color will not be any more expensive really than the black and white.
Same.
And this is actually the example that I ran. This is I chose the same example that I ran for black and white, except I threw in some color. So it's 150 D-size drawings per week of black and white printing, plus 50 D-size drawings in color. That equates to 3,600 square feet in black and white, 1,400 square feet in color.
Got it.
And because of the outside costs are going to go up for the color portion of this, your inside costs are about $880 per month, and that's all up, all in. So that's equipment, that's paper, that's inks, that's print heads, full service maintenance, that's everything.
Wow.
And your outside costs will balloon to probably $1,300 or $1,600 per month, and that's simply because outsourcing providers will charge a premium for color. So, and that's not a lot of color sheets. So it makes sense if you're doing color to take a look at those outsourcing costs and bring those in. And this is also the equipment, as I said, with the right equipment, you can print signage and things like that, things that you're going to do all the time, even banners that you hang outside. So the HP PageWide will allow you to do that as well. So you can add more work that you're probably outsourcing now to be able to produce that.
Signage.
Yes.
That's a great idea, because people spend a lot of money on signage, sending out a poster or something.
Yep.
Wow. Tim, I've got to admit, I'm more convinced than I've ever been to bring large format in-house. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything I'm missing?
Well, the only other thing I would add in is when we talk about hidden costs and all the other costs associated with this, the only thing I ask my customers to do is what is their typical project size? And many of my customers will say in the $100,000, $1 million is going to be the project size. And when you throw in the cost of printing into that, it's minuscule.
Wow.
Compared to all the other tools and all the other things that you're providing, the labor cost, the project costs, it's minuscule. But not having drawings can really impact the bottom line. So think about it that way in terms of convenience and productivity, is just compare the printing costs to what the overall project costs are. And it really doesn't make a lot of sense not to have the insurance policy of being able to produce your own drawings.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. It seems like everybody should at least seriously consider bringing large format in-house. Like you said in the beginning, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but a whole bunch of people, I think it would be for them. Because like me, they thought it was too expensive, too hard to run, too big, and too complicated, and it's really not.
It's not, and the equipment has changed a lot. I've been doing this for quite a while, and the equipment has changed a lot, just in the past 5 years.
Wow.
And with that, Christian, I'll turn it back over to you and see if we have any questions.
Oh, yeah, questions.
All right. So now we've reached the Q&A section. Right now we have a couple of questions. Tim, I believe you answered one of them already, but just to recap on some information here. If anyone has just joined us or has joined us late, if you've registered, there will be a link that will be sent back out to you to follow up on this video, or you can respond to the email at coffee@cobbtechnologies.com or cs@cobbtechnologies.com, and we have videos stored on our website as well, so you can always go back and check back on this video and watch the whole thing in its full length if you've missed any part of this video. And what I'll do is start with the Q&A. The first one was asking, what if I'm outsourcing color drawings, which Tim, I believe we've already addressed on this one here. Pull it back on the screen.
Yeah, put that, the financials there.
There we
And
go.
this is really, I used a cost estimate for, I just kind of polled my outsourcing providers and what they're charging for color. And it's anywhere from 50 cents to, 60 cents per square foot. It can be higher, it can be lower. And really, if you go outside of the metro areas, it's typically higher because there's not as many providers, there's not as much competition. So it can actually be much higher than that. And this is for drawings. So talk about outsourcing signage and things like that. That's typically going to be way higher to do it on outdoor material or full coverage type work for signs. So the cost will vary a lot. I tried to kind of average that out, but that's a great example. The example that you see on your screen is a great example of just kind of the bottom line in looking at outsourcing color.
All right. And we have another question up here. It's asking if they only need a few prints per month, do they have to worry about the toner drying up in the machine before it gets consumed?
No. In fact, even the entry-level equipment today, it's a great job. They go through maintenance cycles. So even the entry-level equipment like the Canon IPFs or the lower-end design jets, they go through maintenance cycles where they actually pump ink into the heads to keep them lubricated. So they do a great job. The only advice I give to customers is don't turn the machine off, keep it plugged in, keep it on, and it'll keep those heads lubricated. And in terms of the production equipment, you don't have to worry about that with any of the toner-based equipment at all. It's going to be fine. And with the production-based inkjet type equipment like the page wide, it goes through that maintenance cycle at all. So you just don't turn the machine off, and it'll do a great job of keeping itself lubricated and calibrated.
All right, it's a good answer. Let's see here. We've got another one just came in. Do you recommend a supplier for rolls of paper?
Normally we include paper in our contracts. And we use OSE paper. We only use OSE paper for the production machines, and mostly because it's great paper. So it's a name brand. So when we ship out paper, it's going to be OSE brand. I don't really have anybody that I would recommend in terms of paper that would be local. But like I said, we normally include all the supplies in our contracts when you have maintenance with us.
So they don't have to worry about rushing out to Staples or anything like that?
No, in fact, we typically ship out the next day when you call us by 3. So you'll have the paper the next day.
All right, sounds good. Let's see here. We'll give it a few more minutes to see if there's any other questions that come in. Let's see. Make sure we're all good here. All right, I think that is it for the questions for today. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for this session of Coffee with Cobb. If there are any other questions that you can think of after watching this video, please reach out to us at coffee@cobbtechnologies.com, and we'll be sure to get back with you and put someone in touch with you who's a subject matter expert like Tim, and he'll be able to help you through any questions or issues you may be facing. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.